Hello, this is Archie Dunlop with Talking Astrology with Archie on Thursday, March the 30th, 2023. Today I want to return to the theme of America, the terrorist state. America, the state sponsor of terrorism. America, the country that cannot take responsibility for its own evil and sees it projected everywhere else. America was born on July the 4th, 1776, when the Declaration of Independence was signed. And at that time, the planet Uranus, a planet of explosions, bombs, terrorism, was in the seventh house. And in the seventh house, we get projected energy. In other words, America can see terrorism everywhere, but it can't see it in itself, and it cannot recognize that it itself is the main cause, I believe, of global terrorism. We can take this right back. Its support for Islamic groups in Afghanistan in the 80s gave rise to Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda, and culminated in the destruction of the World Trade Center on September the 11th, 2001. That's all down to America. This thing that it sees everywhere is itself. So America does need to look in the mirror. Now, more recently, we've had the inauguration of Joe Biden as president, and that chart for the moment he became president is important. And we can look at that chart to get an idea of what his presidency is about. And as I will soon be showing you, it's about death and destruction. We can also see that in Joe Biden's own chart. He was born the day after the beginning of Operation Uranus, which was the Soviet Union's attack on Stalingrad. And you would have thought he would have learnt his lesson, as he was coming out of the womb. Surely he must have felt the vibes when deciding to risk global destruction for the sake of standing up to Russia. But anyway, before I do that, though, I want to look at the stars for today. And today is Thursday, March the 30th, 2023. So let's have a look at what we've got. That's a chart for Nordstream 2, so the chart for Thursday. Okay, so here we go. Still got a lot of planets in Aries. We've got the moon here at 2647 Cancer. Late Cancer. It's made its last aspect before leaving the sign. In the jargon, that means the moon is void of course for much of the day. And when the moon is void of course, it means it's going nowhere. It means that whatever actions we take are unlikely to achieve anything. So void moons should be avoided if you want to get anything done. Void moons are perhaps good if you're afraid of something and you don't want anything to happen. So if you want peace and quiet, if you want nothing to happen, you might be quite happy about the situation, at least until the moon moves into Leo. I mean, if you're in New York, the moon won't be moving into Leo off the top of my head until about 6 p.m. So in the afternoon in New York, you can just relax, but don't try and do anything because it's unlikely to come to anything. That's not to say that it's a completely useless day, because you'll see that Mars is in Cancer, is making a trine aspect to Saturn. Now, when you got Mars trine Saturn, you get the idea of disciplined energy. Mars is an assertive planet, but Saturn is restraint. And this trine is usually seen as a fortunate aspect. So we can concentrate our energy and discipline our energy and get eventual results. So if you have got a piece of hard work to do, or maybe you want to complete your taxes, Mars Saturn is going to help. Once you get going, once you start working on something, Mars Saturn will make sure that you can see it through to completion. On a different note, there's a conjunction between Venus and Uranus. Now, Venus is there you are, Venus is 16 Taurus, Uranus it's a few minutes later. So when you've got Venus-Uranus coming together, you may have to watch out for unusual meetings, which is something I said yesterday, because it's not just like today we have a Venus-Uranus conjunction. It's been building up yesterday, the day before, and it'll be around tomorrow, day after. So it's just that now is the peak of it all. So relationships could get out of hand very quickly. So if you have got dealings with someone who is unstable, is unpredictable, is angry, then today you should stay out of their way, because once an argument starts, it's just going to go on and on, because this conjunction is in Taurus. People are going to be very stubborn today, very willful, and they are not going to be in the mood for compromise. So if you're looking for compromise today, just don't bother. You're not going to find it, I don't think. So those are the main themes. Just stay out of trouble. Enjoy perhaps the excitement of the Venus-Uranus conjunction, but with that void moon, don't expect things to reach culmination. There may be delays. Now, as far as America as a terrorist state, well, let's rephrase that. What about Joe Biden as running a regime which is essentially terroristic? So let's start off with Joe Biden's chart. Here it is. So what strikes us? There's Uranus, the planet of bombs, explosions, whatever, sudden happenings. It's on his 7th house. The 7th house is also connected with relationships. On a tragic note, of course, his wife and a child were killed in a car accident in the early 70s, and we kind of have the symbolism there. Uranus in the 7th. What happens to his partner? What happens to his wife? Uranus, they have an accident. So the symbolism, unfortunately, is there. But then what happens? He becomes President of the United States. Now, let me just quickly show you the USA's chart. See? USA, assuming the Declaration of Independence was signed 10 to 5 in the afternoon in Philadelphia, has got Uranus on the 7th house cusp, and so is Joe Biden. So he is picking up on this fundamental potential for America to project its fear of terrorism on everyone else and not to accept the fact that it itself is a terrorist state. So that's really interesting, the way that comes together. And then we have the inauguration chart, and I think the inauguration chart kind of shows something similar. Look at this. Here is midday, January 20th, 2021. There's Uranus, 644 Taurus. There's Mars, 640 Taurus. There's an exact Mars-Uranus conjunction at the moment that that Joe Biden was inaugurated. So what can we expect from this presidency? We can expect death, destruction, war, explosions, shootings, killings, assassinations, all that kind of stuff. That's the kind of thing we can expect from this presidency. You can see also confusion. Look how Saturn and Neptune, they're in 45 degree aspect. Saturn is about weakness and fear. making the wrong, and with Neptune, it's about making the wrong decisions, and really being in a cloud of fear and misjudgment. So we've got that. Another really interesting thing about this chart is this pattern here. I'm really into looking at these chart patterns. So look, there's the ascendant, there's the midheaven, and so the ascendant is about 8 degrees. The Uranus is 8 degrees off the ascendant, and Saturn is approximately 8 degrees off the midheaven. So I don't know. Can you see this symmetry? There's the ascendant, there's and the midheaven, and how it links with Saturn and Mars. The Mars and the ascendant are the time and the place. Mars and Saturn are the death pair. So that's more evidence of the destruction that the Biden regime is going to wreak on the world. And interestingly, we should remember that Joe Biden has a lot of stuff in Scorpio. He's got Mars, Mercury, Sun, Venus in Scorpio. And Scorpio is a really vindictive sign. We shouldn't forget that Hillary Clinton is a Scorpio, and how the Democrats seem to blame the Russians for losing the 2016 election. Of course, the reason they lost the 2016 election was because Hillary didn't campaign properly in the Lake States, and they were probably more concerned with rainbow coalitions than the white working class in places like Ohio. But that's another matter. Again, not taking responsibility for not taking responsibility for your mistakes. And you have to see other people as the problem, blaming Russia, Scorpio deciding it's all Russia's fault, and we've got to get revenge. Now, as far as the actual destruction of Nord Stream pipeline is concerned, here's the chart. I don't think we've got any direct links with the American charts that I've just shown you, but there is some interesting stuff going on here. It's not actually set for Ronna, Denmark. I've changed this. I've changed the coordinates, so it's a bit out to sea. So this is a fairly good approximation for it. Now this happened just after a new moon. I mean, it's traditional to have military activities just after a new moon because by definition, there is complete darkness, and we can see that here's a new moon. Here is Jupiter exactly opposition the new moon. There's Jupiter at 348 Aries, Moon at 358. Moon. So something comes out into the open. Jupiter it's about some piece of massive excess, and there is Saturn Uranus. You've got a Saturn Uranus square. So Saturn Uranus is about it's about real tension. Something has to give, and Jupiter is exactly on the midpoint. Indeed, Jupiter and the new moon are on the midpoint of this Saturn Uranus point, and so this represents the explosion. We're often told in astrology that Jupiter is a benefic, but it's not always a benefic. Jupiter is just about releasing something, and so here, they released a load of gas. That was certainly released, but it was probably the built-up tension that America felt that Germany was using Russian gas, and it was just too much for the Americans, and they just had to do it, didn't they? And we can see from a chart of Biden, from a chart of his inauguration, even from a chart of the United States, that they're all capable of doing this kind of thing. And of course, now that people are pointing a finger, America is sort of coming up with all sorts of lies and so on. But yeah, this is real evidence. This chart, we know that America blew up a Nord Stream pipeline. We know astrologically that it has a real capacity for terrorist activity. So anyway, I wanted to talk about that, and I hope you found it interesting. And I hope you don't find my own view, perhaps prejudiced view of the world, upsetting. But we all have our views, don't we? Anyway, I will see you tomorrow.